Hello 325, my name is Zach Coulter and this is the video presentation portion of my project. And in my project I will be discussing the various hardships that many immigrants face while trying to establish themselves as United States citizens. Uh, as well, I will be going over a few of my sources that will help bring to light these obstacles that many immigrants had to overcome. Uh, Many of these hardships were the result of employment opportunities not being readily available for people once they came over to the United States. Many immigrants came from their home countries as skilled laborers, but unfortunately, employment and their expertise was scarce, forcing them to learn a whole new skill set and to find jobs elsewhere. For many, this was hard to overcome, which forced them into homelessness and poverty. For other immigrants, they overcame this obstacle and worked a number of different jobs and learned a number of skill sets. They worked different jobs to save money in order to provide for their family and to buy land to establish themselves as United States citizens. There were also laws that were enacted in an attempt to decrease the number of immigrants coming into America. Some of these acts were supported by nativists that wanted to maintain a racial purity in America. Uh, many of these acts were an effort to keep immigrants out and to deport already established immigrants out of America. One of the last hardships that I will talk about is immigrants having to change their name. On the surface, the changing of one's name might not seem like a big deal, but in my opinion, it is because having to change your name is kind of like giving up a portion of you that makes you you. Uh, they weren't necessarily forced to change their name. They faced this decision in order to become more socially acceptable and to better communicate with Americans. Um, to my sources, one source that I have is actually a letter by an Irishman named John Doyle. It was written in 1818. It was a letter to his family back in Ireland explaining his travel to America. He's, like I said, he was an immigrant from Ireland. He traveled to Philadelphia uh, in order to find work. He was originally a skilled printer and bookbinder, and he had a job in Philadelphia, but he moved on to New York because he thought there would be more pay for like bookbinders and printers. Unfortunately, once he made his way to New York, pretty much all the bookbinding and printing jobs were taken, so he had to learn a new skill set and to in order to make money to provide for his family. He actually started selling maps of New York to people for another man. Uh, Unfortunately, all the maps, nobody wanted maps anymore, and so he was pretty much let go of that job. And then he found a way, and he got into selling pictures, which provided a good job for him, provided good money for him. He also wrote in his letter that if many, if people knew the hardships that they were going to face once they left Ireland, they probably would never come to America. They would rather face the hardships in Ireland. But he said for those who were willing to work, they could come to America and uh, flourish. Another source I have is an article written in a newspaper in uh, Milwaukee, Wisconsin in 1905. Describes the life of a Norwegian immigrant, Lars D. Reck, that lived in Deerfield. He came from Norway in 1840, and he first arrived in New York, and then, as well as many Scandinavian immigrants, he moved his way to uh, to the Midwest, where he worked in worked in the canals, and then he would after the canals he moved to work in mining, and then finally he settled and became a farmer, which goes back to my point where many of these immigrants learn new job sets uh, to gain money and to buy land. Another one is the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. It was the first significant law restricting immigration into America. Uh, Much of the Exclusion Act was blaming the Chinese for declining wages. Uh, it brought up a 10-year ban on Chinese labor immigration. It was originally meant for Chinese laborers, but it also denied citizenship to Chinese resident aliens as well. And my last source is an oral interview of Gertrude Gudrun Hildebrand. She was a German immigrant that her family moved to America from Germany in 1929. She was 9 years old. Um, she actually ended up having to change her name because many of the many of her fellow schoolmates couldn't pronounce the name Gudrun, so the teacher gave her a list of names for her to choose so the children could better communicate with her. So she ended up picking Gertrude, and the name stuck with her all her years. But she admitted that she wasn't really happy with the name. So those are my sources, and hopefully I can uh, bring to light these different obstacles that many of these immigrants had to face, and I'm looking forward to seeing what everybody else has. Thanks.